Imagine more people loving God more deeply, serving others more joyfully. Wonderful. This is the mission of our congregation, right? Mission statement. So I want you to know God looked it down and said, I am going to send them more. So here I am. How many of you read the newsletter that was in the mail? Some of you have, some of you haven't. We've gone through 2 funerals, and today is the wedding. We had wedding cake this morning. I've never had maple bacon wedding cake before, but it's pretty good. But our wedding is a little bit different than the weddings of our culture. Our wedding together says, the bishop and the cabinet says, all right, this is who we are going to pick, and this is where we are going to send them. They say to me, this is where you're going, and they say to you, this is who you're getting. Happy marriage. That's how it happens. Now, I had protestations when I had made a deal with our congregation from Crossroads. I said, I'd like to stay another 4 years if that works out. And they said, yeah, that works out with us. And so I told my district superintendent about our deal. Do you care if I sit down? Can you still see me? If you don't care, I don't care either. So, all right. So I said to them, Alan, you're not supposed to be calling me. Alan's my district superintendent. Because he uses the different kind of voice when he really needs something. Randy. Alan. No. He said, Pam Serdar is going to be calling you later on today. No. He goes, I tried. Pam calls. Pam. She goes, I have a great place for you to go. No. You don't understand. I'll give you more details later because I already kept the other one over, right, Bill? He's telling guess what? You're the last congregation that gets it. So we'll be here till noon. Those of you with tea times, get on your little whatever mobile devices and try to move it. No, well, I'll try to get you out close to 12. So we have a place for you to go. This isn't the first time that God has had a different idea than I did. I grew up in a small town, North Springs, Iowa. Population, when I grew up, it was about 1,000 people. Now it's about 1,300. It's just outside of Mason City for those of you. Okay, Iowa jokes, let's just get them out. Okay, there you go. I lived there from the day I was born until I left for college. I grew up in a family. My mom and dad, I have 3 sisters. They're all younger than me. My mom and dad did not go to church. They weren't church folks. They weren't Sunday school folks. But I went to Sunday school. I went to Sunday school for 14 years because you start with preschool stuff. There's a picture of me. I'm the cute one in the middle. Right below me is my sister Tammy with the bouffant hairdo. We went to Sunday school, not because my parents necessarily wanted me to go to Sunday school. My grandma Koppen wanted me to go to Sunday school. Grandma would come, and she would make sure we were in Sunday school. If we weren't in Sunday school, she would come by the house to make sure we were sick. I didn't mind Sunday school so much because you got great snacks. And then later on, I learned that they have even better snacks for church. So it may surprise you that I'm kind of a snack kind of person. Grandma made the best brownies, so I would go down. And then we started, my sister Tammy and I would sometimes go to church in North Springs, Iowa, way in the back. I didn't sit with my grandmother, or we had other relatives too, but I didn't sit with them. We just sat in the back by ourselves. Once in a while, there would be an old guy who was in front of us and gave us a nickel, which meant that I could go down to Smoky's after worship was over and get a candy bar. You could really buy a candy bar for a nickel back then. For all those years in Sunday school, I had never once heard about this. If you want to go to heaven, you need to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, to trust in his promises that he can forgive your sin. I knew what sin was. And that you would live forever in heaven. They taught me all kinds of great things, but I never heard that until I was in the 6th grade. Well, just about the 6th grade. It was a summer Sunday, not much unlike this kind of summer Sunday, although our congregation was a little bit smaller. And I was sitting in the second pew back because the youth group was up front. The youth group was mostly junior and high school kids. Them. And they sang praise songs. We wouldn't have called them praise songs back then. We just would have called them songs. They weren't hymns. And they would had guitars and the whole bit. And I think there's a picture of, and so it was there that they talked about this relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, remember, these are kids, junior high and high school. And there were 3 or 4 of them that came up and gave their testimony, their witness. One of them I knew. His name was Dana Ford. Well, I knew all of them because it's not like North Springs is that big. But Dana got up and said, my dad is an alcoholic. And he talked about what that meant in his life. Now, remember, this is a town of 1,000 people. He's talking about his dad. Everybody in that congregation is going to know who his dad is. Dana said, one day I poured his liquor down the drain. I know that would have happened in my house. But he spoke with such conviction. And those songs meant so much to me that day and at that time, when they asked people to come down front to the altar, nobody moved. But in the second pew, in that little church in North Springs, Iowa, I accepted Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. I started to go to the youth group. Now remember, I'm in 6th grade. This is junior high and senior high, mostly senior high, but they accepted me to come into their youth group. The youth group eventually turned into this group that would also go out and sing to different places, kind of like the Solid Rock folks, although we didn't go and clean anybody's street. All we did was go and sing. We sang spiritual songs. We also had a musical. We sang around churches in North Iowa. As I got older, those kids who were in junior high and high school graduated before me, and the youth group started to kind of sputter. But I remember going. They had delicious stuff to eat. Oh, man. I even liked soybeans. Somebody made a soybean bar. I mean, and not the nasty kind that you get in wrappers now. That had cream cheese. And I digress. I can because you get to stay longer. They invited me to be a part of them. And we prayed, and we sang, and we learned about the Bible through devotions. And when that group dissipated, pretty much so did my faith. I mean, I still knew I loved God. I'd pray the prayer. I'm a Christian. When I got out of high school, I went to the University of Northern Iowa. The whole dorm that I stayed in could more than house all of my hometown. And this is the first time I've really ever been away from home. I went home every weekend. And I knew that I had to get away from there. Not because it was such a bad place, but I knew that I needed to break away from home. So I signed up to go to Westmar College. Anyone here from Westmar went to Westmar, know about Westmar? Westmar's in Lamar's, Iowa. It used to be a United Methodist school. I went there sight unseen. I went there a week before classes started. And it was there that people nurtured you, and I mean, it was a good fit for me. And I went there all 3 years, graduated, and then went home, and I had this wonderful speech communications degree, majoring in public relations and thinking I could just find a job just like that. That didn't happen. I was living at home in my parents' laundry room. So I took up a dare from one of my classmates. He said, here, let's go to this place. So we went to Mason City it was called Midwest Builders, and someone said, read this. I read that, and it was a telemarketing speech. They hired me on the spot. I became a telemarketer for Windows. Don't laugh, I called you. From there, I was hired. I came to the Twin Cities. I worked in Hopkins for the same company, and I was terribly lonely. And I knew what I needed. I needed to find a congregation, a church. Lived in Hopkins, worked in Eden Prairie, so I decided, well, I'll try. I went to Hennepin United Methodist. That was huge. It was nice, but wasn't me. I ended up at Eden Prairie United Methodist Church. I liked the pastor. I joined the choir, started singing in the choir. It wasn't there too long, and I met through a mutual friend of mine, Sandy. I met Sandy at a reunion for Westmar grads. We got married. By the way, if you want to hear about the whole story, ask me, not her. Her version is a little tilted. All right. So, got married. I moved to Hutch because she had a house. Hey. Moved to Hutch. And I was in Sandy's home church. She had been in that church nearly all of her life. I was related to half of them by marriage. At least half, and then the other one were shirt-tail relatives. And I wanted to find something different, and Sandy was the director of the choir. She said, you can, but she said it with that look, you know. So I stayed in the church, and then we got a new pastor. And I tell you what, friends, sometimes our system works well, and sometimes it doesn't work so well. And this time it didn't work so well. And I prayed to God this prayer. I said, God, if I can make just one other congregation not have to go through this stuff, I'll do it. God answers prayers like that. He doesn't answer prayers about, God, I'd love a new Maserati. But this one he answered. I got a letter in the mail, I still have no idea, from a seminary saying, if you're a second career person looking to explore ordained ministry, here's a seminar for you to come to. There was a blurb in the newsletter, literally the next Sunday, that talked about all these pastors who was going to be retiring from ordained ministry. If God is putting a calling on your life, please listen to God and explore that option. It was just crazy. So I didn't talk to Sandy about this, by the way. I mean, God didn't answer the Maserati prayer. So Sandy and the kids were going to a concert, and I said to Sandy, I'm going to this seminar at a seminary for second career folks to explore ordained ministry. We really had not talked about this. I went, came home. Sandy came home with the kids from the concert. I said, I'm going to seminary. She said, we haven't talked about this before, but I felt a calling that God was asking me to do those things. And at the time, it was at a church campground. Well, she was part of the EUB folks, and the counselor said to her, well, wonderful. You can be a missionary, or you can marry a pastor. She was marrying a pastor. I became a pastor. While I was going to seminary, my first place was Herman, Norcross, and Tenney. How many of you know about Herman, place with a bachelor's? That's Herman. I was at a Reformed church there. Norcross is a suburb of Herman. Herman, by the way, is, for those of you who don't know, about 500 people. Okay, 4 miles away is a suburb, Norcross. 85 people includes cats and dogs. And that's where we lived. And then Tenney, population 4, and there were 4 people in the pews. 2 of them named Al, 2 of them named Catherine. And they each had their own pew. I made this deal with God, one congregation. He already had 3. From there, I went to Jackson. From there, we went to Mankato. And at Mankato, I said to God, okay, done. Both kids are out of high school. We'd like to move back to Hutchinson. All of Sandy's family's there. I have a sister and her family there. I'd like to go, and I'll still be in ministry, God, but not there. In a business somewhere. It didn't happen. And we really wanted to move to Hutch. I mean, that was the place we wanted to go. And then Sandy had some problems, health problems, and there was already somebody appointed to go to Mankato. It's not like I could just say, oh, sorry, fooling. So I called the district superintendent. I don't want to get back in. All right. So he sent us to Spicer. I was a mess. Really was a mess. It's not that Spicer was a bad place to go. That wasn't it. It's just that I had different ideas. I didn't want to go. I wanted to not be a pastor anymore. I cried that first day at Spicer. Kind of like, no. And I said, I don't know, friends. Here I am, called to lead you. I didn't want to leave Spicer, but here I am, called to lead you. When Moses talks to God, you all know how many of you seen these are different steps. Okay, so you're going to see my good side every once in a while. How many of you watched the 10 Commandments, Charlton Heston? 10 Commandments. Remember the scene? Moses goes, yeah, there he is. And Moses, take off your sandals, for this is holy ground. Here's a really living version of what happened. God might have sounded like this. Moses. Here's Moses. And God says to Moses, I want you to go to Egypt. Remember, friends, Moses knows about Egypt. He has lived in Pharaoh's castle. He's been a part of that before. He was thrown out because he murdered somebody. A murderer, by the way. I hope you did background check on me. A murder. Moses says this, God. No, I can't do something like that. God says to Moses, well, I'm going to fix things up for you. You'll be fine. Moses comes up with an excuse. I love this one. I'm not eloquent. I'm slow of speech. God says, I am the one who created you. You'll go. No. God, send somebody else. But what did Moses do? Oh, that's not a rhetorical question. What did Moses do? He went. He did it. And that's me. That's who you're getting. I often tell God, no, thank you. And God is patient with us. I believe that there are things that God will orchestrate, and there are things that God allows to happen just to mess with us. Not that he made it happen, but he allows it to happen. And that's why I'm here. There are all kinds of reasons for me not to be here, and I will tell you someday about some of those reasons. But for now, you need to know that we are stuck. We are married. I don't know how long this marriage is going to last. You don't know either. Some of you are saying, I hope it's only going to last the rest of this hour. I'm ready to go. Because I see it's already 10 o'clock. I don't know either. This is what I do know. For whatever reason and purpose, God has put us together. And for whatever reason and purpose, we are called to work together with all of our gifts, all the talents that we have on loan from God, and to go out and to proclaim to the worlds that we live in that Jesus Christ is Lord. To talk about his forgiveness. To offer his wonderful love. And that's what we're called to do together. How will that look like? I don't know. Will it be fun? Most of the time. Will I always ramble on for an hour and a half? No. Hour 15 minutes tops. I thank God for putting us together, as difficult as that is. Yeah. It's a tea time. Where are you at? Where are you at? We're ready to go. It might be God calling. You better answer it. I don't know what's going to happen with us, friends. I just know this. God said, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. We're in it together. Amen.